Welcome, dear friends, to Unity South, Twin Cities. On this second Sunday of Advent, December 6th, it is also the festival day of Saint Nicholas, so we can keep that in mind and heart. I invite all of you who are joining us online today via Facebook Live to click that share button. One of you recently told me that you do that every Sunday without fail, and that you are sending the service out to your whole network of friends. And this is a way that we help spread the good message of youth. I'd like to introduce today's team. We have some new-timers and some old-timers. First, I guess I'm an old-timer. Reverend James Stacey, and my service assistant today is the most capable Gerald Evans. Judy Moen is handling the music. She is on the ball because our soloist today was unable to be here, and so Judy just shifts into make it work mode and will be providing us with some extra beautiful piano solos. Our production team today includes Adam Schneider and a new trainee. He's not new to Unity South, but he's new to this job, and that is Don Ramler. Yeah, that's a good idea. He's taking on a lot. He's used to using our old sound system, but now he's got a whole new batch of technology to learn. So thank you for your willingness to step forward, Don. At this time, I invite you to join with me in an opening prayer. This sets our intention for this entire service, gets our focus upon why we are here, both acknowledging what we are experiencing in life, but also what is possible as we turn to the Spirit within. Let us pray. On the second Sunday of Advent, as we continue our journey into a fresh consciousness of the original goodness in which God created the Holy Family, all of us. Our hopeful souls sing, peace on earth, goodwill toward all. We need to kindle the fire, the impulse in our souls that makes it possible for us to know Christ. We can, with focused effort, understand the powerful and loving Spirit that establishes peace in our hearts, even though this presence is not physically among us. As spiritual messengers instructed the simple shepherds once upon a time, the guidance is still relevant in our day. Great news for everyone, healing and transformation for every heart that turns and runs toward the holy happening. As anyone would caress a tiny infant, the same care is required to foster the innocent spirit, the everlasting life within every soul born of God. We can learn from Mary, who prayed, "Let it be done to me according to your creative word." Wherever we are physically this moment, we gather in our collective intention, illumined by the glorious light and warmth of an unseen presence, to find our world again made whole and hopeful through the purity of the newborn light within us all. Let us join together in one heart and one voice as we affirm our statement of being. There is but one presence and one power in my life, in this church, and in the universe, God, the omnipotent good. Amen. At this time, I invite you to hear the beautiful melody of "It Came Upon a Midnight Clear," Those at home may follow the words and sing along, and those in the sanctuary, I invite you to gently hum. On the second Sunday of Advent, we light a candle to remind us of the spiritual peace that grounds our being. Whatever our circumstances may be, it is always possible to respond from a peaceful heart. Our Christmas services month are designed to be uplifting to our heart. The decorations that excite our feeling nature, the symbolic Holy Nativity that pique interest and our mind toward what is coming to be. But it is important to be present. And during this past week, a dedicated member and leader of this church for 33 years, Marlene Qualley, made her transition on December 3rd. I know all of you in this room have known the trial that Marlene has gone through this entire year of 2020. Those of you that are joining us online may not know Marlene personally. She conducts the early 9 o'clock service for many, many years here at Unity South. It was my pleasure to come to this church not quite 4 years ago and to be able to share and learn and get to know Marlene. Things that you don't see behind the scenes, so to speak, are very important matters for this church. Marlene would typically come to the church about 8:30, and she'd take her coat off and make a beeline straight to the office where she would find me. And she'd tell me about her topic. What was my topic for 10:30? How those topics would work together and weave together. She would share her insights, but she had the generosity of spirit to always ask what I thought, Was she on the right track? How could she help me? This morning, I didn't have that experience, and I won't have it in that same way, just as all of those who attend this church are becoming aware of an absence. And we have to move through that in our own way. Each one grieves the physical loss of a friend in a particular way. And I invite you to be cognizant of how you are feeling as we move through these times. This I call a profound shift in our spiritual community. Let us be sensitive to what each one is experiencing in terms of their grief. They're missing Marlene's presence. But I also learned from her on many occasions, especially in this entire year and even before, when she had health challenges. And she'd say, whatever you tell people at the church, help them keep their focus on the possibility, upon the good, upon the healing of how we can become as individuals and a congregation. And so I know at this time, Marlene was a realist. Many people shared stories this morning in the early service. And she would never tell us to stuff our grieving. But she would also remind us, and I believe if we listen at a different level of consciousness now, we will hear her reminding us still, look to the light, look to the possibility, see the healing and transformation that can come in your life and in our church and in our world. So although today we experience absence, each one of us, when we are ready, when the time is right, will discover a new spiritual presence in our lives and in this church. And it will be a guiding impulse that says, rise up, be renewed, be healed, and especially recover from lesser experience and embrace the new. Marlene, you know well the famous blessing of this church. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. We behold the Christ within you in our past and now in your future. Thanks be to God, who carries us all forward, one step at a time. And at this time, it is my pleasure to welcome for the month of December my service assistant, Gerald Evans.
Good morning. And let's take those words of Reverend Stacey into our hearts and into our minds this morning, and let that be the preamble for our services today. Again, I welcome you to Unity South Church, and may each of you find that truth that you seek. And whether you're sitting here in our sanctuary this morning or visiting with us online, we are glad that you're here. We welcome you, we bless you, and we behold the Christ in you. For our entire gathering this morning, let's hold this thought, that I behold the Christ in you. Let's speak it together. I behold the Christ in you. We encourage you this week to pause and hold this particular intention as you remember our Unity South community. Wherever we are, we can hold a thought that will unite us in a collective consciousness of truth beyond the distances that separate us. We can expand our thought now to include all of humanity. People throughout the world this morning are gathering in the presence of the God of their understanding, recognizing our world needs compassion and understanding right now, especially in this Christmas season of 2020. We offer this blessing for all people. We declare Namaste, which means the sacred in me greets the sacred in you. In this understanding, the entire world is indeed a holy family. And now returning our focus to our ministry, we join in the Unity South centering statement with focused thought and with focused feeling of warmth. Centered in God, assured by faith, and prospered by divine love, we boldly move forward to serve humanity by building our lives in Unity South Church together. Join us next Sunday, December 13th, as I will be your guest speaker. And for the third Sunday of Advent, our theme will be love. Don't you just love self-promotion? We will explore how we can transform our compassionate thoughts toward others from sympathy to love. And here's a hint: the sole quality of sympathy actually sees the need in others, while love sees the essential truth in the other person. Judy, Moen, and Holly Circle are scheduled performers with special music, and a person that I've come to love and know over the last close to 40 years will be my service assistant, Francine Evans. Here's another hint. I'll be telling you what love is not. Today, the red poinsettia is given in loving memory of Blake Malberg by his wife, Mary. And now let us prepare for a time of community prayer, and we do that with the reading of today's daily word. Peace is the word. It flows through me and blesses the world. The light of God shines within all people. I pause to remember this truth as I consider the world and my relationship to it. Jesus says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you." The same divine light that lived in Jesus is shining brightly in me and in all of us. My peace is a gift that I choose to give to the world. I bless the world by affirming, the kingdom of God is among us here and now. It is through this Christ-centered awareness that we project a consciousness of peace. We live, we move, and we have our being in the light, love, and peace of God. We can expand our awareness of divine ideas through prayer and through affirmation, through meditation. And we do this, we're doing our part to uplift the consciousness of the entire planet. We are walking in the light of God, and we are at peace. From Revelation it reads, "The nations will walk by its light, and the kings of the earth will bring their glory into it." Let's take these words into our hearts and into our minds. And the next voice you hear will be that of the Reverend James Stacey.
Dear friends, on this Advent Sunday, and in this tender time for our spiritual community, let us become one in prayer. I invite you to close your eyes. But as you do, and turn your attention within, do not think that you are turning your attention within in the sense of aloneness. We are turning our attention within, meaning beyond the outer sights and sounds, and beholding the spiritual truth, the invisible and silent truth of our being, of this spiritual family, and ultimately the world. In other words, we do not pray alone. Father, Mother God, we acknowledge you are always and everywhere present. We live and move and have our very existence in your being. What a gift of that you have created us in such wisdom and with such infinite love that we can turn our attention away from the outer world, turning within, and you become a parent to us. We sense your presence, and in your presence, we experience healing. We experience wholeness. We experience our connection, for your light of life animates each and every of us. So in the silence, we now see the light of all. Not only those physically present, but all living spirits. Those who have passed on before us. Meet us again in the radiance of true prayer. Jesus, our teacher and way shower, in a high state of consciousness, declared, "The Father and I are one." We now know this truth in prayer. We are one with our Creator, and therefore one with all. We recognize our friends at Silent Unity headquarters as they continue, even in this very hour, to maintain their vigil of prayer, now for 120 years. We enter the stream of Silent Unity's consciousness, here now, joining them in this affirmation. Centered in peace, I broadcast peace on earth and goodwill to all. Centered in peace, I broadcast peace on earth and goodwill to all. I emanate the Christ consciousness of peace. I let my circle of peace expand to bless all things, all beings, envisioning a world where love and compassion direct every thought and action. I let peace flow from me to everyone I meet. I share peace and glad tidings of unlimited good with the world. I behold possibility. And we now call into the light and radiance of our prayer all those who have turned to Unity South for prayer support, reaching out through their need, finding us to be a witness to the powerful spirit within them. Dear friends, we acknowledge your requests with compassion and love. But the greatest blessing is we behold the power within your spirit, created out of infinite love by the Creator of all. We affirm your truth, that every step you take in the path that is uniquely your life, you step forward into a greater experience of health, supply, purpose, compassion, wisdom. We behold the all possibility within you. And now, let our prayer become its most radiant as we hold that perfect model of prayer that Jesus Christ taught, the Lord's Prayer. I invite those at home to sing the words and those in the sanctuary to hum the beautiful melody, holding the prayer thought in mind. Now we're going to hear creativity on the spot as Judy Moen calls forth a musical gift. Thank you, Judy. I don't know if you were paying close attention. That was not music off a page. That was music straight from the heart. Well, let's begin today by looking at the daily word affirmation. You heard it a few minutes ago, but I want to call our attention to it again. Sometimes I read the daily word quickly in the morning. Perhaps you do too. And it doesn't always sink into the very core of my being if I don't give it attention. So today our affirmation, peace flows through me and blesses the world. It sounds like a nice phrase. We might call it Minnesota nice in its quality. But sometimes, at least I find, I have to dig a little deeper. Peace flows through me and blesses the world. When I come from a place of inner peace, I truly bless the world. You do too. And by that, I understand that coming from a place of inner peace, I bless the world of circumstances. the outer doesn't impact me in such a negative way. And in turn, through my actions, coming from peace, I make a good and beneficial act on the world. Now, if you're like me, it's for weeks now, months now, you've listened to the media, and I am not blaming them. That's not the point. But you listen to the reporting of activity, hardship, pain, suffering, death, moving all around the globe, and it can get you down. Another cute phrase with deep meaning is that popular, wonderful song, I won't sing it, of Dolly Parton. It's like a hard candy Christmas, but I won't let the pain get me way down. I don't know if you ever had a hard candy Christmas, but getting those cheap, inexpensive candies, and you're looking around and that was it. So was Dolly's childhood. But she realized in her extraordinary life that has featured so much giving to others, what it was to come from a place of peace, even when you could see nothing but hard candy, and to bring forth the gift, to bring forth whatever you could bring to a situation, to lift it, to lift hearts, to bring smiled times. Peace flows through me and blesses the world. It might be rephrased, peace is the quality of my soul that sees world circumstances and responds in truth and love. Or perhaps from a Buddhist perspective, we might say, I am awake, and peacefulness is the result. World circumstances are transformed through mindfulness. So it's Christmas time, a time filled with countless stories. I'd like to share one with you. This was written by Marianne O'Rourke, and it's entitled The Empty Manger. Where is he? Where is he? I rummaged through the box. The Christ child was missing. Just when I had decided that putting up the nativity scene my parents brought me from the Holy Land would finally get me into the Christmas mood. As soon as I got home from the office, I pulled out the box from the back of my closet and dug through the bundles of tissue paper. 2 sheep of golden brown, 3 stately wise men, and a leggy camel, an ox, and a donkey, and a stable with a star. Then came Joseph and Mary. But baby Jesus was missing. Forget setting up the creche. I'd sit Christmas out for another year. The next morning, I headed to work, my head down and hands thrust into my coat pockets, as if steeling myself for the onslaught of decorated store windows and tourists loaded down with red and green shopping bags. Somehow, this year, I was feeling not only melancholy, but overwhelmed and cynical. Had I simply grown immune to the annual epidemic of Christmas spirit? That's when I saw her. A woman with the grimy green hat. She'd become a regular on my block, slouched and smoking in a doorway or digging through a trash can. I guess she slept in a homeless shelter, though occasionally I saw her sprawled on the steps of a nearby church. I'd volunteered in a soup kitchen for years and usually wasn't put off by street people, but this woman was hard to take, cursing passersby and shouting at cars. That day she lurched in front of me, thrusting out a swollen hand. "Got any money?" she rasped. "No," I snapped. She took a step closer, and I quickly crossed the street to get away from her. I found myself directly in front of the church. In a small concrete courtyard, set off by a wrought iron railing, was the beautiful manger scene they put up every year. Wise men, shepherds, a man in a robe, a woman in blue, all gazed down at a wooden manger filled with straw. And centered in the hay, plump arms open, lay a plaster baby Jesus. A halo curved around his head in a golden crescent. Swaddling clothes covered his little body. Here was baby Jesus in the midst of corner delis and shoe stores, the hustle and bustle of city life flowing around him like a river. I stopped and took it all in. For a fleeting instant, I almost felt the old spark of Christmas. Then I heard her, the bag lady, yelling and cursing. Well, at least two of us in this city didn't have the spirit of the season in our hearts. Yet over the following days, I found myself passing by the church's creche again and again, drawn perhaps to the simple, ancient scene to help me make up for the incomplete one I refused to put up in my apartment. I'd once written an article about St. Francis of Assisi, the gentle and visionary monk who had created the first nativity scene in the year 1223 in a cave on a mountainside in central Italy. At a time when only the wealthy were allowed into the church's inner sanctum, Francis was determined to emphasize the Christ child's peasant birth and pay tribute to the humble animals Francis called sister and brother. With his friend Giovanni di Villita, the Lord of Greccio, Francis set up a simple hay-filled manger in a rocky crevice. Monks tethered an ox and a donkey next to the empty crib. On Christmas Eve, worshipers came from miles around and processed up the mountain, carrying candles and torches that lit the velvety blackness like a galaxy of stars. The crowds gathered in hushed awe around the scene. Some onlookers reported they actually saw the form of baby Jesus appear on the hay. One observer was sure that the glowing infant opened his eyes and smiled lovingly at St. Francis. How real the Christ child was to those people. I thought the next time I passed by my neighborhood nativity scene. Here, centuries later, as the winter winds whistled, the absurd thought crossed my mind that the infant, covered only by a painted strip of swaddling clothes, might be cold. What a crazy idea, I thought, pulling my coat tighter around me, continuing down the block. Christmas was only a few days away when I came hurrying up the street one sleety morning. From under my umbrella, I glanced at the nativity, then stopped. Mary and Joseph stood vigil, faithful as always. But over an empty manger. There was an indentation in the straw, but no baby. I didn't know whether I wanted to cry or shout or scream like the bag lady in the green hat. I couldn't believe someone would steal the Christ child. Just like my creche at home, this baby was gone too. The sleet splattered on my umbrella, and I headed down the street feeling completely dejected. Who could do such a dreadful thing? I was almost to the subway when out of the corner of my eye, I saw a huddled form in an alley by the parking garage. Hunched against the wall was the woman in the green hat. But she wasn't cursing or panhandling. She was bent protectively over a bundle in her arms wrapped in a blanket. As she rocked it back and forth, a corner of the blanket fell away, and I saw a plump plaster arm, then the curve of golden halo. Cuddling the infant even closer to her chest, she kissed its little brow. I stood watching, and for a split second, I had the incredible notion that the baby opened its eyes and smiled up at the woman hovering over him. Then there was a gust of wind, and the woman pulled up the blanket to shelter the baby. I could see her lips moving. I heard a wisp of drifting melody, raspy but sweet on the frosty air. Silent night, holy night. She never looked up. I never approached her. But I knew without a doubt that the spirit of the Christ child had never been missing. It might be where I least expected it, but it was never far away. That weary woman and those rushing crowds were as much a part of the manger scene as the ungodly chaos and ineffable holiness in the little town of Bethlehem was so many centuries ago. I quickened my pace, then turned one more time before going into the subway. The woman emerged from the alley and headed back toward the church, the infant figure still lovingly in her arms, and her green hat suddenly vivid against the gray cityscape. That night, the December sky gave way to an enormous white moon. I unwrapped my parents' Holy Land figures and arranged them on my mantle. The missing baby didn't bother me. Like the worshipers in the Middle Ages, to whom baby Jesus was so real that they saw him in an empty manger, I too knew his spirit was present. At the center of not just a single holiday, but at the center of my life. An empty manger. But can you see possibility within it? A challenged world Perhaps you struggle in even your own life. But if you're still and quiet and observant, and you see a possibility, a new birth about to happen. Well, let us take this into a few moments of silence as a model for how we can move from concern, even anxiety, into peace. It means beholding the possibility like our story, like the spirit of the Jesus child, always present. I invite you to close your eyes, to turn your attention within, and give the fullness and warmth of your attention. And first allow yourself to honestly acknowledge any concern you may hold in your heart. As it comes before your mind's eye or wells up in your heart of feeling, know that this concern can attract your attention, can bring your focus upon an essential aspect of life. Then I invite you to ask yourself, is this concern, this difficulty, this struggle, is this the ultimate truth of my God-created life? Are these current experiences and feelings all there is to me? Are they everlasting? Can I find a peace and an assurance in the goodness of life, in the infinite love of God? Can I look upon what seems like an empty manger in my heart and see a potential new reality becoming? What does that possibility look like to you? I invite you for a few moments in the silence. Hold that image in your soul. At first, it may seem like an empty manger, but look for the spiritual truth that is there, and therefore in your life. Father, Mother God, we give thanks as we behold this manger, this place of birthing, of becoming, that you have given us spiritual vision, that when we choose Be still, silent, grounded in peace. You have given us the ability to see that which is being born in our lives, our community, our world. You have given us the wisdom to see beyond the temporary circumstance and see what is always essential, possible, good, born of love through a peaceful heart. And as you are ready, I invite you to open your eyes, becoming aware of this sanctuary in which we're seated, to just remember as we, in this time of silence, this inner from a place of peace is an ongoing process. In each and every day, you have the choice to look upon the possible and, like caring for that little nativity child, to caress it, to nourish it, and to bring it forward. The peace in your heart is a blessing for this world. It does make a difference. You can have confidence in that truth. And so let's ask Judy to bless us and to gracefully conclude this time with a selection of music.
Thank you so much, Judy. And we're grateful not only for the music, but for all the gifts that are sent by mail or given online at unitysouth.org. Together, we will keep this ministry energized to complete its important mission so that all who turn to Unity South will be embraced, loved, and empowered by our collective consciousness. We live in a benevolent and supportive universe, and we are grateful for all of it. Right now, please join me in taking your gifts in your hand, or hold your online giving receipts, or if you give monthly, hold in mind your financial commitment, and together, let's bless our gifts. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all the good that I am and have, all the good that I give and receive, and I am grateful. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. For those of you in the sanctuary this morning, you may leave your offering in the container you will find at the door. And right now, it's my pleasure to bring back the Reverend James Stacey.
Well, our call to action, also known as homework this week, invites you to continue your journey for Advent. And by that, I encourage you to hold a concern you might be experiencing in your life or in our world, and then center yourself in prayer or whatever your favorite spiritual practice is. And now, from a center of peacefulness, consider what action can you take to improve the situation about which you are concerned. Respond peacefully, with love, and bless your world. So let us now close this service we have shared with our prayer for protection, letting it be the thought that carries us back into the actions of this day and the day ahead. Together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is in truth well. In these days of our safety protocol, it requires that we not visit in the sanctuary. So please follow me as we leave in silence outside where we can visit. Please remember to keep your mask on and to socially distance. Thank you for your presence today.